been weeks, Bob, since we've connected here on Facebook, but I know we just did an interview last week. But welcome to the show today. This is Bob Wright, founder of the American Anti-Cancer Institute. How you doing tonight, Bob?
I'm doing great. You see, I dressed casually today, but we've got a good subject, and we should have a lot of fun with it today. So I'm really delighted to be here.
I am too. We do have a good subject. I'm excited to hear what your 5 picks are. We'll talk about it in just a second. For those of you that are just starting to view, go ahead and share this broadcast, tag some people, let people know that we're right here. Bob Wright is going to be sharing the 5 things that I would never eat. And I told him right before we came on, can't wait to hear what that's going to be tonight. But Bob, this is our 14th interview here on Facebook Live. And we so far have well over 55,000 views with the information that we both know is life-changing and life-saving. And I know for you, that is extremely exciting.
It really is. And I'm delighted that we've lasted 14 weeks of doing this without getting X'd out by the powers that be. So we'll keep going as long as we can.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad too. And I love this format and just love the flexibility that you have to be a part and take the time out of your such busy schedule to do these interviews. And for the listeners tonight, definitely, again, share. We want you to like the American Anti-Cancer Institute Facebook page, if you would. When you like it, it does a couple of things. It helps you to be notified when Bob's going to be live like he is right now. It also lets you know when we post important information, and you can just go there and take advantage of the information we share there. And we also want you to go to the website getmadaboutcancer.com and subscribe to Bob's monthly newsletter. The AACI has a free newsletter that we send out every month, and it's important that you get this information, new innovations and new technologies coming out, and things that Bob wants to share from his heart. It's a powerful newsletter. And thanks, by the way, Bob, for all you do to make that happen.
Well, you're very welcome. I actually enjoy doing it every month. It allows me to do even more research myself. And it's a learning experience for me in putting this together. And I thank you and Carol for stepping up and really assisting us with the production of this newsletter too.
Well, it's been our honor and our pleasure to do that because, as you know, I cannot go to bed at night, and it wakes me up in the morning thinking about the people that are being diagnosed with cancer and all other forms of disease that we know there's a way to prevent most of that. And so just being a small part of the AACI has just been a huge blessing for me and for Carol as well. So over the past 14 weeks now, we've talked about your 5-step protocol. And I think it's really important that we just quickly cover that again. And of course, one of the topics is one of the steps. So what are the 5 most important things that you share in your book, Killing Cancer, Not People, your 5-step protocol, and wherever you go?
Well, the first one we talk about is you have to have the right diet. You have to eat the right things and not eat the wrong things. And of course, we're gonna deal with that tonight. But that's one of the most important things, because if you're not well, especially have cancer or heart disease or diabetes or something, what you put in your body at that point is going to say a lot about your ability to heal or not to heal. And so many people will not take that seriously. They want the pill or whatever the case might be, or something from the doctor, or one thing that is going to do it for them. And it's not that simple. It's a simple process, but it's not that simple. And the food that you eat and the non-foods that you eat are going to affect whether you heal or not, basically, and whether you stay well or not when you are well. Number 2 is you got to drink the right water. We talk about Kangen water, the right fluids. I mean, it's difficult to find things that we can drink that are any good for us. And of course, we found that Kangen water is number 1 at this point in what the fluids that we should put in our body. It goes far beyond that, and we've addressed that previously, but that's one of the most important things that we can do. Third thing is we need to put the right supplements in our body, because whether we're sick or well, we understand we're not getting enough of the right nutrients into our body. So we need to supplement whether we're sick or well. But when we are facing a challenge in our body, it's more important at that point to supplement. And so we supplement with, I'm not going to mention the name of everything today, but we have a couple different products. And then some things that kind of spin off of those, like everybody needs to take vitamin D3 and turmeric and enzymes and probiotics and these types of things. The fourth thing is we need to detox, and it's the one thing that people miss in that healing pathway they take, whether it's with cancer or anything else. They don't detox. If you don't detox and get all of the junk out of your body, it's very difficult to heal. Of course, number 5 is exercise for those who can. And in this day and age, it's 2018. We shouldn't have to talk about exercise, folks. We need to do it, and we need to do it every day if we can, and we are able, and we need to find that exercise that works for us.
Absolutely. And I do want to mention the last 2 interviews that we've done has been about the whole body vibration machine, which is so important and something that just about any person can do. There may be a couple of exceptions, but across the board. So I encourage the viewers to go back and just go to the Facebook page where you are and look at the videos. There's a whole little section at the top that says videos, and you can go back and hear details about all of these different subjects that Bob and I have explored over the past 14 weeks and learn a lot about, more in depth about all of those things. But let's jump right in, Bob, about tonight's subject. And again, we titled it, what are the 5 things that I would never eat. So here we go. What is number 1 on your list?
This has been a very difficult task, Tracy, and it's like the top 5 things, that list that we have for cancer patients, or just to stay well, the protocol. What is number 1? What is number 2? Are they interchangeable? Are they all equally important? The same goes for what we would not eat. And I've got 5 things listed. I probably could have listed many, many more than that. But I don't know that there can be just a number 1, because these 5 are all things that we shouldn't eat. But I'll throw out first milk. And that's going to shock a lot of people, especially the dairy industry. And they're going to go, what? Something that's as wholesome and fortified and loaded with protein and calcium as milk? And you're going to think I'm off my rocker, of course. But, I've done my research. And if you've done your research too, you'll know where I'm coming from. We're the only species, humans, that drink milk from another species. Why is that? And cow's milk was meant for calves because it's very rich milk in its raw form. It's designed to put on a ton of weight for that calf as rapidly as possible. Humans don't need to do that. Casein is 70% of the protein in milk. Whey is the other 30%. Whey, not bad for you. Casein, if you've read the China study by T. Colin Campbell, directly related to cancer. And so we need to think about that. Calcium in milk, we think, strong bones, strong teeth. We need to get that calcium, but the calcium in milk, really not that usable for human beings. It's another thing that we can talk about sometime is calcium, because we're told day after day by the television that we need to get more calcium to build our bones, and yet people don't know how to do it. They take crushed rock, which is in a supplement form, which really does them no good at all and could harm them. And so you add to that the fact of the way milk is processed. If you go to the store and get a gallon of milk and take it home, that nice ice cold milk, everybody wants to have a glass of that. But if you get down and analyze that milk, you'll see that it's full of dead things and pus. Mm-hmm. And I know a few people just gulped right then. But it's really true. But the way milk is processed today, it's pasteurized. So it doesn't really matter what's inside of the milk, because it's all going to be killed anyway, including the good enzymes and the things that people could actually utilize from the milk. So milk is, and I wrote about it in the book. And if you need some more info, read it out of the book, because this is really important. And this is something that people don't realize, because we've all been brought up that milk is what's going to help us grow. And it's one of the most nutritious things. And the fact is that it's not. And there's nothing in milk that you can't get from a good, wholesome diet. And that includes the calcium. That includes the protein. And so I'm kind of a big X on milk.
Well, I love it. And, I don't know if you remember, you probably do, but it was one of our first interviews is, dairy. Get rid of the dairy. The anything coming from a cow is a big X. So milk, cheese, all of those things. And I mentioned in that first interview that I was such a huge milk drinker my entire life, because, of course, my mother and father were milk drinkers too, raised me on it. And when I actually cut it out of my life cold turkey several years ago, it's made a huge difference in my digestive system. Oh my goodness. And, I'm, of course, my immune system is stronger for it as well. Don't crave it anymore, but I know it was one of those almost addictions. I think, Bob, it's not easy for an adult to kick that habit, but it's worth it.
Well, it is. And we talk, when we talk about milk and milk products, we talk about lactose, and people say, well, yeah, I'm lactose intolerant. And other people will say, no, I'm not. And what I say to them is almost everyone is lactose intolerant. It just affects them differently, because when we're about 2 years old or so, we stop producing the enzyme lactase. Most people, not all, but most people stop producing that. So we have no way to really break down and metabolize the lactose. And that's what causes us all the problems. And so are you lactose intolerant? Yeah, probably.
All right, let's go to number 2 on your list. What else are one of the things that you would never, ever eat for drink?
Well, and again, this is kind of loaded, because would I never, ever drink it? Like, I'm not including this in my top 5, but tap water, I try to never, ever drink tap water. But if I'm dying of thirst and all I got is tap water, I'm going to drink it. But only for a brief period of time till I can get something else. And so this list is a little bit loaded. Would I never, ever do any of these? I try my best to stay away from them, and I believe everyone else should too. Your decision. But would I never, ever? Well, I've had a milkshake now and then. We were talking about milk. It's one of my weaknesses, and they just kill me. But after I'm done, so I don't have one very often. Very seldom do I have one. So try to stay away from milk and milk products. Now, soda pop. Now, number 2. And whether that's sugared soda pop or diet soda pop, they're both equally bad for you. And I don't think we realize how much. And I'm not going to mention any brand names here. We all know the brands of soda pop now, but they average a pH of about 2.5. And when you think that your stomach acid's about 1.8, that's not much above that. Our bodies, and an acidified body is not a healthy body, because we're born alkaline, and we turn ourselves acid over the years by eating acidic food, and a lot of it. We see our kids today drinking these big gulps. I mean, 1 can of sugared soda pop has about 10 teaspoons of sugar in it, and you would need 32 12-ounce glasses of Kangen water just to neutralize and bring to neutral pH that 1 soda pop. So that's how bad that is. The phosphoric acid that's in there. I mean, our kids are getting osteoporosis in their late teens now, and that's because of the phosphoric acid in the soda pop. And then if you want to jump over to the diet pop, I think I'm losing my camera here. Let me bring it back.
All right.
Okay, if you want to jump over to the diet pop, I'll talk a little more about that in a little while, because it's another thing that's on my top 5 list. But know that it's equally as bad for you, if not worse, than the just regular sugared soda pop. And so all of these things play together to put something in your body that has no redeeming value whatsoever, except maybe it satisfies your taste buds for a brief period of time. And so for me, soda pop is kind of a no-no, folks.
I agree. Again, raised by a mom that drank a Diet Coke or a diet something every single day for my entire life, and still did until she came to live with me in September after the diagnosis of Alzheimer's. So I absolutely agree with you 150% on that one. And whether it be the sugar or the sugar-free, is just so bad for you. So thank you for that, Bob. And I'm ready for number 3.
Well, this is good. We're going to dovetail right off the soda pop and move right into the NutraSweet and the aspartame. Now, these aren't necessarily foods in and of themselves, but they are in so many different foods today that we have to pay attention and we have to read labels. I mean, we need to understand what these things really are, how they ever were approved as food ingredients. It never, ever should have happened. And when you look at the history behind that, not going to go through it all now, you'll say, well, how did that ever happen? Much of what we see is so-called science or FDA approval science today is what I would call pseudoscience and fake news, if we want to go there. Because aspartame is what is called an excitoneurotoxin. Just the sound of that should tell you that you should not put it in your body. That means that it excites the neurons in the brain, and it excites them to death, folks. What do you get as a result? You get headaches, you get cancer, seizures, depression, ADHD, birth defects, and the list goes on and on. I heard a story about a young gal who was a runner, and she just ran all the time until her legs started to hurt and they started to get numb. And over the course of a short period of time, it took her all the way to paralysis. And no one could figure out what was wrong with this young gal because she was in excellent health and, was exercising a lot, competitive runner. And all of a sudden she was paralyzed. And one day her sister just said, you know what? Are you still drinking all that diet pop? She says, oh, yeah, I drink at least 6 a day. Stop it. She stopped it. She regained the use of her legs. The neuropathy went away and she was well again.
Wow.
And so these are serious things. And so when you're reaching for those little packets to put in your iced tea or your coffee that are blue or pink or yellow, I won't mention the trade names on those, but don't use those either. If you're going to do that, use stevia, just like sugar. If you don't have cancer, use a little bit of honey. I mean, there are alternatives, and we need to know that. But I don't like NutraSweet and aspartame. Again, my message to the FDA and all my good friends there, if you're listening, is that I'm standing on that, and you never should have approved it. Wow.
It breaks my heart. That story is so tragic. Thank God she was able to turn that around. But again, I just know what it does to people. And so many, what really blows me away about this conversation, Bob, is, probably right now the dozen or so viewers that we have live right now, we're preaching to the choir. But what they can do is they can take this information, share it, and tag someone that they know just doesn't get this. I did a post on one of my pages recently about this, and I had several people comment and say, I really just didn't understand how bad it was for you. So thank you so much for sharing the truth tonight. And, when I titled it, I originally did say, what are the 5 foods I would never eat? but I did change it to the 5 things I would never eat, because I began to think, what would Bob say? And I figured that this would be one of them, and it's certainly not a food. So thank you for that. I think we've done up to number 3. Let's do a little drum roll. And what is number 4 on your list?
It's in the same vein, the thing, not necessarily a food of and in itself, but in so many foods today that we've got to classify it as that, even though it's a total non-food, and that's high fructose corn syrup. What's it made from? It's made from genetically modified corn. And even though it's corn syrup, some of the high fructose syrups are made from beets and other things too, but this is specifically high fructose corn syrup. And it's got such a bad name today that they've tried to rename it corn sugar. They've tried to rename it other things. And I don't know how much success they've had with that, but it tells that, they're trying to hide something. And there's a reason for that. It's totally non-nutritive. It's